and Councillor Gail Martin. On staff, we have our Director of Carl Johansson and our CEO, Francis Chung. We also have our Corporate Officer, Kelly Kenny, with us tonight. So, this public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act in order to consider the following. Bylaw number 3123, the purpose is to authorize the discharge of land use contract number 11-78 from the property located at 19671 50A Avenue to facilitate a future building permit application for a secondary suite. Bylaw number 3124, purpose is to authorize the discharge of land use contract number 22-72 from the property located at 19986 50A Avenue to legalize an existing secondary suite. First off, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Kaitsi, Kwantlen, Musqueam, and Semiahmoo First Nations. This is the city's first electronic public hearing, and I'd like to thank everyone in advance for their patience and understanding as we navigate through this new process. If we encounter technical challenges during the meeting, please stand by, as we want to ensure everyone who wishes to speak is afforded the opportunity to do so. The public hearing is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and is also being recorded and will subsequently be posted to the city's website. If you are watching and wish to attend this electronic meeting, you can go to www.langleycity.ca to register and join the meeting. At this public hearing, those in attendance at this electronic meeting who believe that their interest in property is affected by either or both of the proposed bylaws will be allowed to make representations to council and shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the bylaws. Once in the meeting, you may use the raise hand function to indicate you wish to speak, which will automatically put you in the speaker queue. You will be invited to speak in the order in which hands are raised. When it is your turn to speak, staff will prompt you with a message asking you to unmute your microphone, and you may begin speaking. Please commence your comments to council by clearly stating your name and street address. Unit numbers are not required. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning one or both of the bylaws. Your name, address, and comments will form part of the record of this public hearing. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of the council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaws with individual citizens. Once you've completed your comments, staff will mute your microphone. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. I'm asking that you keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes to allow everyone who wishes to speak the opportunity to do so. Once everyone who wishes to speak has done so, I will call for speakers for a second time, at which time those who wish to speak again should indicate so by using the raise hand function. I will then call for speakers for a third time and final time. If there are no speakers, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. The public was also given the opportunity to provide written submissions for this public hearing. All submissions will be retained by the corporate officers, and copies of the submissions will be available from her on request following the hearing and shall form part of the public record of these proceedings. Ms. Kenny, can you please advise how notification was provided for this public hearing and whether we have received any correspondence?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Notice was placed outside of the entrance to City Hall on June 25th, 2020. Notices were mailed to properties within 100 meters of the subject properties, and newspaper advertisements were placed in the June 25th and July 2nd editions of the Langley Advance Times. And one piece of correspondence was received regarding bylaw 3123 and was included in the public hearing agenda package.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so business, the first bylaw to be dealt with is bylaw 3123, discharge of land use contract number 11-78 to facilitate a future building permit application for a secondary suite. And Mr. Johansson, can you please present the proposed bylaw?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this bylaw is to discharge a historical land use contract from the title of this property, which is zoned RS1 single family residential. Once discharged, this will allow a secondary suite on the property. Although it's important to note that the city's zoning bylaw already permits secondary suites on properties zoned for single family homes, and this zoning has been in effect since 2006. It's also important to note that all land use contracts in the city are to be discharged with the adoption of the city's new zoning bylaw, which is anticipated to occur in late 2020, early 2021. All land use contracts in the province of BC are to be removed by July 1st, 2024. This proposed early discharge of this land use contract will enable the owner to have a secondary suite on their property in advance of the citywide removal of land use contracts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. Kuzak, can you please advise if there is anyone in attendance at this meeting who wishes to speak to bylaw 3123?
Hi, thanks, Madam Mayor. We have 5 attendees in the meeting. However, no one is indicating that they would like to speak to this bylaw.
So no one else in attendance who wishes to speak to bylaw 3123?
Madam Mayor, we have a speaker, Mr. Jivan Rajput. One moment. Mr. Rajput, go ahead and speak.
Hello, can you hear us?
He needs to unmute.
If you could unmute and then please state your name and the street you live on for the record.
There should be an icon, Mr. Rajput, on your screen that allows you to unmute, perhaps in the bottom left.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Oh, you'll need to mute another device if you have it open.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Jeevan, and we are on the 50th Street in Langley City.
Thank you.
And just wondering, we saw this in the mail, and we would like to clarify what this is regarding. We have heard your comments at the beginning, but I'm sorry, but this is, we're not used to the terms that are being used in this hearing. So if you can clarify what this is regarding, is this for a secondary suite within the house, or is it a secondary suite away or detached from the house?
I'll ask staff for clarification. Mr. Johansson, can you answer that, please?
Yes, through to the mayor, secondary suites are defined in the bylaw as a secondary dwelling within the primary or the house. So basically a basement suite.
Okay, so my question is, I'm just wondering, why is there a public hearing to qualify a secondary suite within the main house? Shouldn't that be just done to the city, just on its own, that the owner can go to the city hall and just do that? Or is there a rule in the city bylaws that you have to have a public hearing? Thank you.
Mr. Johansson, would you like to address that, please?
Yes, through the mayor to the speaker. The city zoning bylaw, as I noted in my opening comments, does allow secondary suites, permit secondary suites in single family homes on single family home or zoned lots. But there's a historical land use contract system that's still in effect. Has been used in cities across the province, and that old system prohibits the use of secondary suites, and that system is actually going to be taken away in 2024 province-wide. And the point of this, you have to have a public hearing according to provincial legislation to remove these land use contracts, so that's why we're doing that today. Because if these properties don't have the land use contracts removed through council resolution, they'll have to wait until they're all removed by when we adopt our new zoning bylaw or in 2024.
So for now, if we need to get our secondary suite in a single family home authorized, we go through a public hearing, correct?
That is.
Yes, through the mayor to the speaker, I think this is something we could talk about. If you want to contact me, we would have to see if there's a land use contract on your property first. If there's not, it could be a building permit process. So perhaps you can get a hold of me tomorrow or sometime this week. Thank you.
Thank you for the answers.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, great. Ms. Kuzak, was there any other, I'll call for a second time for anyone else who wishes to speak to bylaw 3123.
At this point, we have no further speakers.
Okay, so I will call a third and final time for anyone who wishes to speak to bylaw 3123.
And no further speakers.
Okay, seeing there's no further speakers, we will move on to the next bylaw, which is bylaw 3124, discharge of land use contract number 22-72, a bylaw to authorize the discharge of land use contract number 22-72 from the property located at 19986 50A Avenue to legalize an existing secondary suite. And Mr. Johansson, I believe you're going to speak to this bylaw as well, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening once again, Council. The purpose of this bylaw is to discharge a historical land use contract from this property, which is also zoned RS1 single family. And once this is discharged, it would allow a secondary suite on this property. And like I said before, the city's zoning bylaw does permit secondary suites on single family home zone properties and has done this since 2006. And with our new zoning bylaw that we are hoping to bring forward and complete by the end of this year, early 2021, all land use contracts in the city will be removed, and they're supposed to be removed through provincial legislation requires them to be removed province-wide by July 1st, 2024. And the proposed early discharge of this land use contract will enable the owner to have a secondary suite on their property.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Kuzak, can you please advise if there's anyone in attendance at this meeting who wishes to speak to this bylaw 3124?
Those in attendance are not indicating that they would like to speak, so we currently have no speakers.
So I will call a second time for anyone who wishes to speak to bylaw 3124.
No one is indicating.
Okay, so I will call for a third and final time for anyone who wishes to speak to bylaw 3124.
No speakers.
All right, seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder to close the public hearing. Councillor Albrecht, Councillor Bahal, all those in favor? Carries. Public meeting is over. Thank you for coming out tonight.